You are earning more money today than you were 3 years ago. You got the promotion, you switched jobs, the salary is good. So, why does your bank account still look exactly the same at the end of the month? Where is the money actually going? Dekho, it's not because you are bad at managing money. It's because there are five silent wealth killers engineered into the Indian middle class lifestyle that are quietly draining your net worth. And the scary part? You probably think three of these are actually good financial habits. Today, I'm going to show you exactly what these five traps are and the exact mathematical fix for each one so you can finally start keeping the money you earn. Okay, real talk for a second. Imagine this. It's the first of the month, your salary just hit 75,000 rupees in your account. You feel great, right? For maybe 4 days. Then the credit card bill shows up. Then the EMI for the phone you bought on a zero cost EMI that somehow still feels expensive. Then rent, then Swiggy, then Zomato, then that random Amazon purchase you don't even remember making. And by the 10th of the month, you're back to 8,000 rupees. And you're sitting there thinking, where did it all go? I make decent money, why am I always broke? If that scenario hit a little too close to home, this video is for you. And honestly, you need to watch it till the end because the five things I'm about to tell you are silently, systematically destroying your ability to build wealth. And most people have no idea it's even happening. I'm Rohan, and I spend way too much time thinking about why smart, hardworking Indians are somehow always one paycheck away from panic. We're a country with a 30.2% savings rate, actually higher than the global average according to a recent SBI economic research report. And yet, household financial savings as a percentage of GDP have literally halved in 4 years, from 11% of GDP in FY 2021 all the way down to 5.3% in FY 2024. That is a catastrophic fall, and it's happening while our incomes are going up. So, something is broken. Not in the economy, in our behavior. If you are someone who earns a reasonable salary, considers themselves financially aware, maybe even has an SIP running, but still can't figure out why wealth just isn't building, hit that subscribe button, give this video a thumbs up if it helps you, and let's get into it. Alright, let's start with the one that I'm most frustrated about, because this one is literally designed to destroy you and it's disguised as a kindness. Your credit card statement comes, total dues 45,000 rupees, and right next to it, in a friendly little box, it says minimum due 1,350 rupees. And you think, okay, I'll just pay the minimum this month, I'll clear the rest next month. Here's the thing, you won't. And the math on this is terrifying. Credit card interest rates in India are typically 3.5 to 3.75% per month, not per year, per month. That's an annualized rate of 42 to 45%. Just let that sink in for a second. Your FD is giving you 7% a year, your credit card is charging you 42% a year. If you carry 45,000 rupees in credit card debt and only pay the minimum each month, you will pay that card off in over a decade. And you'll end up paying almost 3 lakh rupees in total for a 45,000 rupee purchase. The debt more than triples. Now you might be thinking, Rohan, I'm not that irresponsible. I always pay my bill. Good, I'm glad. But look at the scale of this problem. India's total credit card outstanding has shot up to 2,88,000 crore rupees as of August 2025 per RBI data. And RBI data also tells us that credit card NPAs rose 28% in a single year, reaching 6,742 crore rupees by December 2024. And here's the part that should shake you. A huge chunk of new credit card and unsecured loan borrowers are under 30, with CRIF high mark data showing the under 25 segment makes up over one third of first time borrowers, and the 26 to 30 cohort showing the fastest growth in unsecured credit. Young Indians just starting their learning lives already swimming in high interest debt. I spoke to someone recently, let's call him Arun, a Bangalore techie who spent 6 years clearing a credit card principal of 1,50,000 rupees. 6 years, and he paid over 2 lakh rupees in interest alone on that one card. The principal was 1,50,000 rupees, the total payout over 3,50,000 rupees. And this is someone with a good job, not a careless spender, just caught in the minimum due trap. The fix? Treat your credit card like a debit card. If you can't pay the full amount at the end of the month, you cannot afford to buy the thing. Simple as that. No minimum due, no I'll manage it next month, full payment every single time. So this one is a little more psychological, and I think it's actually the sneakiest of all five. Here's what happens. You get a raise, congratulations, you now earn 1 lakh rupees a month instead of 75,000 rupees. So what do? You upgrade the apartment, you switch from a two-wheeler to a car, you upgrade the phone, you start ordering from better restaurants, you join a premium gym, and at the end of the month, you have the same 8,000 rupees left, just with nicer stuff surrounding you. This is called lifestyle inflation, and this is the reason why people who earn 40,000 rupees a month and people who earn 4 lakh rupees a month can somehow end up with nothing saved. Here's what most people don't realize. It's not your income that builds wealth. It's the gap between your income and expenses. That gap is the only money that can actually work for you. Everything else just maintains your lifestyle. Let me make this very concrete. Say you get a 25,000 rupees raise. That's 3 lakh rupees per year extra. Now two versions of you. Version A, lifestyle inflation Rohan, upgrades the car, the apartment, the phone, uses all 25,000 rupees each month, saves zero. Wealth built from raise in 10 years? Zero. Version B, Smart Rohan, keeps expenses exactly the same for 12 months, puts all 25,000 rupees per month into an index fund earning 12% annually. After 10 years, that's approximately 57 lakh rupees from one raise that you didn't even feel the absence of because your lifestyle didn't change. Now you might be thinking, but Rohan, what's the point of earning more if I can't enjoy my life? Look, I'm not saying live like a monk. I'm saying implement what I call the 50-50 raise rule. Every time you get a raise or a bonus, you are allowed to upgrade your lifestyle with exactly 50% of the increase. The other 50% goes straight to investment. You still enjoy more, but your wealth also grows, not one or the other. Screenshot that, seriously. 50-50 raise rule. It's the only rule you need every time that increment letter lands in your inbox. The real problem is that our social environment makes lifestyle inflation feel necessary. Office colleagues, Instagram, weddings, WhatsApp groups, everything screams that you should be spending at your earning level or beyond. And this is especially aggressive in Tier 1 Indian cities right now, where the cost of keeping appearances is genuinely insane. The data backs this up. According to RBI data, household financial liabilities nearly doubled in just 2 years, reaching 18 lakh 80,000 crore rupees in FY 2024. We are borrowing to maintain lifestyles. That is the opposite of wealth building.
Okay, this is where it gets really interesting, and I know this one is going to upset some people. Because I'm going to challenge something that Indian families have treated as sacred for generations: the fixed deposit. Look, I love my FD loving aunties and uncles, I really do. But we need to have an honest conversation about what an FD is actually doing to your money in 2026. Your FD gives you around 6.5 to 7.5% per year. That sounds decent, right? But here's the thing. Inflation in India has averaged around 5 to 6% over the last few years. So your real return, after accounting for inflation, is maybe 1 to 2%. You're barely keeping up with rising prices. You're not building wealth. You're standing still on a moving treadmill. Now add tax. If you're in the 30% tax bracket, your post-tax FD return drops to around 4.5 to 5.25%. If inflation is at 5%, congratulations, your FD is earning you somewhere between nothing and a rounding error. Let me show you what this costs you over 20 years. Take 10 lakh rupees. Two scenarios. FD at 7%, post-tax effective 5%. After 20 years, approximately 26 lakh 50,000 rupees. Nifty 50 index fund at 12% CAGR, historical long-term average. After 20 years, approximately 96 lakh rupees. The difference is 70 lakh rupees, 70 lakh, from the same starting amount, just because of where you put it. Now here's where most people go wrong. They hear this and they think I'm saying put everything in equity. I am not saying that. I am saying your long-term wealth building money, money you don't need for 7 to 10 plus years, should not be sitting in an FD. FDs are for your emergency fund and short-term goals, not for your retirement corpus, not for your child's education 15 years from now. Here's what most people don't realize. The Indian mutual fund industry now manages over 82 lakh crore rupees in average assets under management as of February 2026, up from 50 lakh crore rupees just 2 years ago. SIP inflows have been consistently above 25,000 crore rupees every month. The smart money in India has already shifted massively. The question is, has yours? The psychological barrier here is loss aversion. We feel the pain of losing 1000 rupees about twice as strongly as the pleasure of gaining 1000 rupees. That's basic behavioral economics, Daniel Kahneman's work. So markets go down 15% and people panic, sell everything and move to FDs right before the recovery. Then they miss the gains and sit in FDs for years wondering why their wealth isn't growing. It's a tragic, predictable cycle. The fix? Build a simple, boring asset allocation. Emergency fund in liquid fund or FD, 6 months of expenses. Everything else for long-term goals goes into index funds or diversified equity mutual funds via SIP. Set it up, automate it, forget it. Do not touch it when the market drops. Okay, I want you to imagine something for me. You've been diligent, you've done everything right. 5 years of SIPs, avoided credit card debt, built up a corpus of 12 lakh rupees, and then one medical emergency. Cancer diagnosis, a serious accident, something catastrophic, and overnight your entire savings are wiped out. Not in the stock market, not in a bad investment, just one hospital bill. This is not a hypothetical. This is happening to lakhs of Indian families every year. Here's the shocking data. India's total insurance penetration, life plus health plus everything, is just 3.7% of GDP. That puts us among the most underinsured large economies in the world. And meaningful health coverage? We're talking under 20% of the population having anything remotely adequate, according to IRDAI and National Health Authority data. And despite all the government's push, surveys consistently show that a massive chunk of the middle class, the very people watching this video, are either completely uninsured or so severely underinsured that one hospitalization would destroy their financial plan entirely. Here's what most people don't realize. A basic corporate health insurance plan from your employer, the one you assume covers you, typically covers 3 to 5 lakh rupees. The average cost of a cardiac surgery in a private hospital in a metro city is 5 to 12 lakh rupees. The average cost of treating cancer for 1 year is 15 to 30 lakh rupees. Your employer's policy won't even touch a serious illness. So what do you actually need? Two things. One, a personal term life insurance policy. Not ULIP, not endorsement. Pure term. If you're 28 years old, a 1 crore rupees term plan costs you roughly 7 to 10,000 rupees per year. That's less than 1,000 rupees a month. If something happens to you, your family gets 1 crore rupees. That is the only insurance worth buying for life coverage. And two, a personal health insurance plan separate from your employers of at least 10 lakh rupees cover with a super top-up to extend it to 50 lakh rupees or higher. Here's why you don't just buy a 50 lakh rupees base plan straight up. It would cost you a fortune in premiums. Instead, the base plan covers the first 10 lakh rupees and the super top-up cheaply covers everything above that deductible, saving you a massive amount on annual premiums. A 10 lakh base plus 40 lakh super top-up for a 30-year-old might cost you 12,000 to 18,000 rupees a year combined. That is 1,500 rupees a month to protect years and years of wealth building from being destroyed in a single event. This is the wealth killer that nobody talks about because it's boring, because paying an insurance premium feels like spending money on nothing until it saves your entire financial life. And if you're sitting there with a ULIP that your bank relationship manager sold you, well, I'm sorry, but you need to evaluate whether that policy gives you adequate life cover and adequate returns. Spoiler, most don't. They're typically good for neither. That's a whole separate video though.
All right, last one. And this one is the root cause of the other four. Most Indians, even educated, well-paid ones, do not have a written financial plan. No written goals, no asset allocation, no clarity on when they want to retire, how much they'll need, or what they're actually investing toward. Instead, what we do is this. We invest based on tips. WhatsApp forwards from a mamu who knows about the market. A hot IPO a colleague mentioned. A sectoral fund that gave 50% returns last year. We react. We don't plan. And reacting is the single most expensive thing you can do in investing. There's a concept in finance called the behavior gap. It's the difference between what your fund actually returned and what you actually got, because you bought at the peak, panicked in the crash, sold at the bottom, and re-entered when it recovered. Studies show that the average Indian retail investor earns 3 to 4% less per year than the funds they invest in, simply because of poor timing and emotional decisions. On a 50 lakh rupees corpus over 20 years, a 3% difference in returns means a gap of over 1.5 crore rupees. We are literally leaving crores on the table because we don't have a plan. Here's what most people don't realize. You don't need a financial advisor charging 2% of your AUM to have a plan. You need clarity on three things. First, goals with numbers and timelines. Not I want to retire comfortably. That's not a goal. I want 5 crore rupees in 25 years to retire. That's a goal. I want 20 lakh rupees in 7 years for my child's college. That's a goal. Second, asset allocation that matches your timeline.
Short-term goals, 0 to 3 years, liquid funds, FDs, short-duration debt funds. Medium-term goals, 3 to 7 years, balanced advantage funds, hybrid funds. Long-term goals, 7 plus years, pure equity index funds, flexicap mutual funds. Third, automation. Set up SIPs on the first of every month, the day your salary lands, before you spend a single rupee. Not the 15th, not when the market is right, the first. Because you will never feel like investing if you wait until after expenses. There will always be something else to spend it on. And here's a quick back of the envelope number for you. If you're 28 years old and you want to retire at 58 with a corpus of 5 crore rupees, assuming a 12% annual return from equity mutual funds, you need to invest approximately 14,000 to 15,000 rupees per month. That's it. 15,000 rupees per month. Started now, kept consistent, 5 crore rupees in 30 years. Wait 10 years to start, you'll need to invest over 50,000 rupees per month to hit the same goal. Procrastination has a price tag, and it is enormous. Look, I'm going to be honest with you. This stuff isn't complicated. None of it is. Pay your credit card in full, keep your lifestyle in check when your income rises, invest in equity for the long term, get properly insured, have a written plan with goals. That's it. Those 5 things. If you just do those 5 things consistently for 10 to 15 years, you will be in better financial shape than 90% of the people around you. Not because you're smarter, not because you earn more, just because you were deliberate while everyone else was winging it. But here's the thing about financial decisions. The hardest part is never the information. You've now watched this video, you know what to do. The hardest part is starting right now. Not tomorrow, not after the next salary, now. So here's your homework, and I want you to actually do this today. Step 1. Log into your credit card account right now and set up autopay for the full outstanding amount every month. Not the minimum, full. Step 2. If you don't have a term plan or a personal health insurance, spend 30 minutes this week comparing options on Policy Bazaar or Ditto Insurance. Just 30 minutes. Step 3. Open any SIP of 500 rupees, yes, even 500 rupees, in a Nifty 50 index fund today just to break the psychological barrier of starting. The market in 2026, despite global headwinds, despite US tariff noise, despite all the macro uncertainty, is still one of the best long-term opportunities in the world. The RBI's February 2026 MPC meeting revised India's GDP growth projection upward to 7.4% for this fiscal year. Indian wealth management is entering what analysts are calling an inflection point. The sectors are lined up, the digital infrastructure is there. The question is whether you are ready to show up for your own financial life. I genuinely believe you are. That's why you're here. Go build some wealth yaar. Alright, that's a wrap on today's video. If this was helpful, drop a thumbs up. It genuinely helps the channel a lot. And if you know someone who needs to hear any of this, share it with them. Sometimes the best financial advice you can give a friend is just a YouTube link. In the next video, we are going to talk about the actual salary breakdown of how much you should be allocating to investment, expenses, and emergency fund, based on different income levels from 30,000 to 3 lakh rupees per month. You don't want to miss that one. I'm Rohan. Subscribe if you haven't already, and I'll see you in the next one.